Trying to set your rate as a content creator is easily one of the most daunting parts of the job. In my early days, I would obsess over what my number was. I was worried that if I set a number too high, I would be scaring off potential brand partnerships, and I worried that if I set a number too low, I would be getting taken advantage of. But rates no longer stress me out, especially now that I am almost making enough to live off of, even as a micro-influencer. So in today's video, I hope to share some tips to help eliminate all of the stress and pressure that comes with trying to figure out the perfect number. So first, we're going to cover some guiding principles to keep in mind whenever we're talking about rates. Second, we are going to dive into how you can determine your own rates. Then we are going to wrap it up with the history of my rates, showing some of my previous rate cards and how they've progressed through time. So let's cover the 4 critical principles you need to keep in mind when we're talking rates. Number 1, only you can set your rates because they're yours. I get asked a lot if I can take a look at somebody's Instagram page and tell them how much they should be charging, but I will never have as much insight into somebody's value as they do, unless I were to become their manager or something, and I'm not about that life. Principle number 2, your rates are not permanent. You do not set a number and then get chained to it. I think this is where a lot of the anxiety around rate setting comes in. We worry that if we set the wrong number that we'll get stuck with it. But yesterday's price is not today's price. You can change your rates as much as you want. Mine go up regularly. And for principle number 3, we are going to address the other side of the fear that comes with rate setting, and that is that if we set a number too low, we're gonna get taken advantage of. Unless you are one of the lucky few that doesn't suffer from imposter syndrome, you will always be lowballing yourself. Because very often, by the time you get the courage to increase your rates a bit, they're probably already too low again. So don't get hung up on it. Chalk it up to experience and move forward. And the final thing to keep in mind is that I am talking about the base price for creating content and posting it on your socials. We aren't talking about all the extra add-ons like exclusivity fees and digital usage rights, which I talk about in this video here. I also recently learned about kill fees and virality clauses. I'm not sure I have the confidence to include those yet, but we'll see. Now on to the juicy bits. How can you determine your rates? My first point I want you to take with a grain of salt, and that is the use of rate calculators and charts, which I do believe are a rite of passage for content creators and influencers trying to navigate their worth. And while I do believe that the numbers these calculators spit out are way too low, they are a great jumping off point for everything else we're going to cover in this video. And don't forget that you can pad these numbers a bit with digital usage rights or adding on additional platforms. This is a chart from the marketing platform #paid. There's also a calculator feature on Influencer Marketing Hub, also another one on Inspire. And if you want to support a creator, check out Tyler's calculator for sale at Thrifts and Tangles, and I will link that in the description. The next thing that will help you determine your rates is considering your labor and time. In creating content for a brand, we are more than a person posing in front of a camera endorsing product. We are the photographer, the videographer, the video editor, the stylist, the makeup artist. Let me know what else in the comments, because I know I'm missing a ton. If a brand were to run an ad in print or run a TV commercial, they would very likely be hiring for each of these roles individually. And while they are lucky that we come as an all-in-one package, we need to make sure that we account for the time it takes to execute all those roles. Assess how long it takes you to complete your content from start to finish. Then divide your rate by your labor hours, and you will end up with your hourly wage. Third thing to consider when setting your rates is the return on investment, or ROI, to the brand. I think as influencers, we get caught up in knowing our worth, chasing the bag, setting higher and higher rates, while sometimes forgetting that we are offering a professional service and our worth does need to be justified. We want to do what is mutually beneficial for us and the brand that we're working with. This is also why I consider how long my content will serve a brand when setting my rate. If my content is serving a brand for a shorter period of time, I'm going to charge less. That's content that I'm posting on Instagram or TikTok. It has a very short lifespan. Content that will continue serving a brand for the long term, in other words, evergreen content that can be found again and again and again via search on my blog, on YouTube, on Pinterest even, then that has a higher price tag because it can continue benefiting the brand months, years even after I posted it. Okay, next, and this one is absolutely key. You need to just choose a number, hopefully informed by everything we just covered, and present it in your next negotiation with a brand. Analyze brands' reactions to your rate. If a brand accepts your rates without negotiation, they are too low. But that's okay. We don't get hung up on it. We're learning and we increase them next time. When I first started, I would increase $50 at a time and feel it out, and now I increase in about $100 increments. If a brand does negotiate, that is not a bad thing and that does not mean your rates are too high. I do believe that negotiating is part of the game, but do be aware of how low a brand is trying to push you after you present your number. The next point is very similar to analyzing a brand's reaction, but I think it is a million times more important. And that is analyzing your reaction, your feelings, while you're completing the work and after the contract is completed. If while you're completing work for a campaign, you ever get the feeling that the scope of this is just not worth my time, the next time around, you need to increase your rates. Another huge help in determining your rates is leveraging your community and friendships. The majority of my more significant rate increases were motivated by my friends in the content creator space sharing their rates with me. Many of my friendships developed organically through the Instagram DMs, through Facebook groups, Clubhouse chats. If you have yet to develop friendships, I really encourage you to start connecting with people. And in the meantime, you can still see what other creators are charging by looking to places where people are being really transparent on the internet. FU Pay Me is a good start. And on TikTok, there is this budding space of rate transparency. So I would make sure you're following hashtags like micro-influencer and nano-influencer so that influencers who are sharing their rates show up on your For You page. And finally, when it comes to rates, you need to always be accounting for progress. Has your reach increased, or have you learned a new skill that increased your quality? Have you invested in new gear that improved your content? So now let's do a quick look at the history of my rates. So 2020 was when I really started to put together my media kit and everything. So I was actually able to find one from about July. And you can see here, my follower count at the time was 7,000. And these rates were honestly rates that I came up with mostly by myself using calculators, and these were the rates that I slowly would increase over time based off of everything that we just talked about. June 2021, from what I can find in my email, there are my numbers. My Instagram posts increased by $600. We added a whole other zero to my packages. We came a long way. And the increase in these numbers are honestly what helped me make close to $70,000 last year as a content creator. And of course, as we have clearly established, rates are always increasing. So I now will not really go for a gig that is under $1,000. And of course, there are some exceptions to this, but those are more going to be one-offs simply because I don't have enough time. And I just want to end this discussion on a question that I was asked on my Instagram stories, and that is, do you feel like you're getting paid what you're worth? And my answer is yes. Even though I know that there are creators out there at my same level that are charging more. And that is because of everything we covered in this video. I assess how brands respond to my rates. I assess how I feel after I work for my rates, and I feel happy. For me, it's not about squeezing the highest number possible out of a brand. It's in making what I do a sustainable career. And as I continue to improve and better myself, I will continue to keep increasing my rates accordingly. I really do hope that this answered a lot of your questions about rates. If you have more, please do drop them below. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video. And if you found this video helpful, it would mean the world if you gave it a thumbs up, if you dropped a comment letting me know, and if you shared it with a friend. Until next time.